drive-in testing, hospitals preparing for the influx of COVID-19 patients, and the government launching its economical relief plan. State of emergency, day 7, Tallinn, Estonia. It's the 19th of March, 2020, Thursday, and testing is once again one of the main subjects, as it has been for most of the past week. Who should have the test? How many people should have the test? Who even can have the test? What are the capabilities of our testing? How many kits do we have? How much protective gear do we have? How many tests can we actually analyze in the labs, and so forth. In the following days, 8 testing centers will be opened in different cities across Estonia. This includes Tallinn, Tartu, Pärnu, Kuressaare, Narva, Kohtla-Järve, Viljandi and Paide. These will be drive-in test centers, and like mentioned before, you will need a letter from your GP to have the test. So in all likelihood, we'll see in a few days if that will increase the number or decrease the number of percentages of positive tests, and whether this will change the number of cases in a significant way. Now keep in mind that still, even if you don't have symptoms and if you're not in one of the risk groups, then you won't get tested. And this applies even in the case when you've been in contact with someone who has been tested positive for the COVID-19 disease, but you don't have any symptoms yet yourself. Also, repeat tests won't be run. And this means that a person will be considered recovered once 14 days have been passed from his first symptoms, or once he or she or they haven't run a fever in 48 hours, or if they haven't gotten any new symptoms in 24 hours. This doesn't mean that everyone necessarily has to go to the drive-in centers. If for whichever reason you can't go to the drive-in centers, then you will be tested. They will come to your home and make sure that you get the test. By today, the total number is 267. This means that the morning brought only 9 new cases from the 239 tests that they ran. This is the smallest increase since I've started tracking the numbers. And it's also the smallest percentage of positive tests in a single day so far. So whether this is an anomaly or something that might actually show that the spread is not that big here, well, we'll just have to see. But I can imagine some people thinking that, okay, maybe we're good, maybe this is not that bad here. And maybe that indeed is the case, let's hope so. But at the same time, we can see that the number of patients hospitalized is already increasing. And that's something to pay attention to in the following days to actually assess the spread of the disease. We know that the hospitals are preparing for the influx of COVID-19 patients, and they're making the necessary changes in their facilities. This includes increasing ICU bed places and also reorganizing the work of the emergency department to ensure that the patients who might potentially be carrying the COVID-19 disease wouldn't get into contact with the other patients. The increase of hospitalized patients is expected sometime from next week and onwards. This is due to the latency period of the disease. So as we know, you can carry the disease for a long time without actually having any symptoms. And once you start showing the symptoms, it might take some days until things actually get bad. So while, for example, today's Estonian numbers are promising, we know for a fact that there's a growing trend of new cases still in Europe. And by now, Italy has surpassed China as far as total number of deaths go. Italy is hoping to reach the peak of the outbreak in a few days, so let's hope that that hope becomes reality. The government is launching its economical relief plan, which amounts to a total of 2 billion euros. Now, just to remind you, the total GDP of Estonia is approximately 31 billion euros. The plan aims to help companies and employees and to guarantee a functioning economy to reduce the number of bankruptcies. The program includes 500 million euros for loans, 250 million for the mentioned 70% salary program for 2 months, and something new is that they also now will compensate the first 3 days of the sick leave. The change of the sick leave is indeed big news and important because before the first days were not compensated. This meant that if you wanted to take sick leave from the work, then, well, you lost in your salary, and which caused people to go to work while actually being sick. So obviously they're hoping to reduce the number of infections with this step. Good news is that the situation on the Polish border is getting better now because the authorities are not demanding truck drivers to fill the health forms. Similarly, as this measure was ended on the Estonian-Latvian border, this has ended the long waiting lines and hopefully will fasten the delivery of goods. But this applies only to trucks, so all regular travel is still virtually stopped through Poland. It is possible to arrange a transit trip if you have an at least 8-seater bus, but that does need an agreement with the authorities. Also, some good news for people who are working with a contract in Finland but living in Estonia. The crisis committee managed to find a solution to the absurd situation that I mentioned yesterday. The aim was how to avoid workers traveling between the two countries to fall under the quarantine rules. So the update is that if you are an Estonian worker returning from Finland, if you're not showing any symptoms, then you don't have to be in quarantine for 14 days. This exception can be used once in 7 days, so it means that you can't return to Estonia more than once a week. Today we dropped by Keila-Joa, which I also mentioned yesterday that it has become a popular destination for people wanting to breathe some fresh air. It's basically a small town, a 30-minute drive from Tallinn, westwards on the coast. It has a beautiful waterfall, a 19th century mansion, and the sea is actually just a few kilometers away. While you could see a number of cars, a number of people, I definitely can't say there was an actual crowd there. Okay, it's Thursday, it's not a weekend, but it is quite a popular destination anyhow, since it's such a short distance away from the town for all the people who just want to get out of the bus once in a while. So naturally, the curious fellow that I am, I wanted to see what the situation on the ground was. And this is something that I aim to do more in the next updates. To see life in Estonia from different angles and discover some more spots out in the open air, because I know that a lot of people actually don't have that luxury, that opportunity to just head out. So just to open some new scenery and to discover some new angles, the rhythm of these updates will shift a bit, they will be a bit more infrequent, and at the same time I'll try to add some extra depth. We all know that it's easy to get stuck in ourselves, so once in a while it's good to take a side step. So look after one another and don't lose the flow.